This is Crenshaw, Briggs, and VT. We want the touchdown. We not trying to go for 3. And it's best if you get up out the street, cause them bulls out the pen and they about to stampede.
First of all, what do you think
VT,
about
let's
Lovie?
be honest. You got on me. You got on me over my take on the coaching.
Oh, I
situation.
definitely did. Yeah. And I stand by it. I mean, I don't think that it was a bad thing to fire Lovie. In fact, I was rooting for it. Um, I think that he needed to go. I understand how it looks, firing 2 black coaches back to back, and it looks like you're so unstable, right? Unstable. But the thing is, it had to happen. The way that everything went down, from the Deshaun Watson stuff to having to get Cully, to the way that the whole Jack Easterby stuff went, we were going to have Josh McCown be the head coach. And, but John McClain, who on the show said that Hannah is the one that actually talked to Cal and Nick and said, no, we can't do this. It'll look bad. That's the reason. That's the only reason why we didn't end up with Josh McCown. And the fact that we had to have her stop it is kind of scary, right? Like how did no one else think of that? And so the way we ended up with Lovie is simply because we had no other choice. He was the person that we got because we couldn't get who we wanted to get, and the person who we wanted to get shouldn't have never been in the building in the first place.
James, you seem like you have something interested to say. What was it?
Well, I do. So it sounds like what you're saying, man. Like, so I wasn't wrong either. Like, my whole point, if you're saying, my whole point, if nobody remembers this argument other than me, but my whole point was, if you're interviewing for this job, you should have just as many questions for the Houston Texans ownership group that is interviewing you as they have for you. And I think that's a very fair thing to go into the interview process with. Well, first, you should always be asking questions because I mean, if you come in without asking questions about an organization you're going to start being the face of that franchise for, you got problems and you probably shouldn't be running it. But to me, specifically as a minority head coach, there are questions you need to ask, whether the perception of what happened to David Culley and Lovie Smith is however you want to take it. You still need to address ownership about, am I going to get patience? Am I going to get the ability to build a culture and the ability to have multiple years on this? Like, those are very valid questions. However you want to slice what happened over the last 2 years, whether Lovie deserves to be fired, whether he doesn't deserve to be fired, same thing with my whole point was, and this kind of goes with you saying, if the general, who was a mentor to me in Houston when I was there on this beat, says that Hannah McNair is the one that made the decision not to have Josh McCown, I'm going to have some questions for ownership if that's the way things are being run in the building, if I'm going to become the new head coach. Is that not a valid?
It's not like she made the decision. What she did is she talked to Cal and Nick and said, hey, we're going to have a problem with the media, because we were getting blasted in the media with Josh McCown already, right? Finding a black coach and then hiring someone that basically coached high school. So it's not like she made the decision, but she convinced Cal and Nick not to have McCown there. My issue that I had when you said that is that the issue was that a black head coach had to ask those questions, because in my opinion, Cully should have never been hired, and Lovie should have never been hired.
Every coach should come in and ask those questions.
That's different, right? But I think that Cully and Lovie should never have been hired. They were hired because who was going to give them another opportunity? And it's not the fact that they were black that's the reason why we gave them the opportunity. We gave them the opportunity because they wanted to see if they could prove something, and they obviously weren't. But there weren't a lot of coaches that wanted to take this job, and so we're like, throw enough shit on the wall, see what sticks, because there wasn't a lot of other opportunities. And the thing is, when we had to fire them because we thought that there were better opportunities, and of course, D'Amico is world better than Lovie. And at the time, if you believe the rumors, we were trying to get Flores, which is why we got rid of Cully in the first place. And Flores was better than Cully. So, we were trying to get a better coach. And the thing that
on paper, D'Amico is better, right? I mean,
correct.
He's still a rookie, still inexperienced. So on paper,
Sure, right. We haven't seen a snap of football yet. No, But the point there is that there was a very valid reason for it, and I think a lot of the media, and it wasn't just you, but it was a lot of the media that was unfairly saying it without saying it, is that the organization had a racial problem and that they were almost purposely putting black individuals in a situation only to fire them because they, for whatever reason, I'm not even going to imply anything more there, but it was ridiculous to call an entire organization racist when they've actually been one of the most diverse organizations in the NFL.
So, VD, my entire point, and I don't think my whole point was based off of them both being black. It was based off of instability, and it was based off of everything that you just more or less said, right? Like, if you break down what's gone on over these 2 years, what you really were saying was like, I would everything you just said. If all of it's true, I would have 1,000 questions if I was applying for this head coaching position, because that's a lot of that's a lot of bad communication within a building. That's a lot of disorganization within a building. If I get what you're saying, like, we had to fire them, like we had to. All right, well then I want to know why ownership put themselves in this position. All right, then how did you put yourself in that type of position? Those are questions that I would want answered if I was putting myself in the interview process for this head coaching position, because I'm going to be working directly with the owner and I'm going to be working directly with Nick. And so I would want to know, how did you guys get yourself in this position? Are we going to get ourselves in this position again with me, or any other aspect of how we go about it? I think all of that should be on the table. And that was my point in going, like, there should be a lot of questions asked, because it has not been run very well for the last couple of years. Hiring a good head coach, we can break down D'Amico at length. I would love to. I think the world of him. But I think all of those questions, no matter what candidate you are, you have to come in and go, what's happened the last 2 years? I think it's a very valid question to ask. And that was essentially my point. And then we'll drop that part of it.
Yeah. All right.
This is Crenshaw, Briggs, and VT. We want the touchdown. We not trying to go for 3. And it's best if you get up out the street, cause them bulls out the pen and they about to stampede.